All right, we have Dave Sheridan here with us, actor, comedian. He's the brains behind Buzzkill, MTV's Buzzkill. He's also
That's right.
Special Officer Doofy in Ghostface, scary movie.
Yep.
He played Doug in Ghost World. I only watched that last year for the first time. I thought it was a brilliant film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
And
thank you, man.
another film that we're really eager to talk about at some point is Windy City Heat.
Oh, yeah. I love that film. That's underrated, man. A lot of people don't know that one. So
Oh, man.
I always tell people, Sex Drive is a good one. Yeah. That's
underrated as well.
It's definitely underrated, but it's catching on. I get a lot of, because I do a lot of conventions. So I interact with a lot of the fans and stuff. In fact, I'm going to be in England. I'm going to be in Manchester in October, like October 16th, if I can get a passport. It's like 16th and 17th of October in Manchester. It's called For the Love of Horror. And it's a convention that I'll be at and be appearing as Doofy, actually. So, yeah, but so I know what's on people's radars just because I talk to so many people that come up to the table, and they definitely know about Sex Drive. But when I talk to them about Windy City Heat, most people are unaware of it. I'm like, that's one of the funniest movies I've been in, man. It's a really funny film. So
we befriended a guy named Jason Tebow. Don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a comedian based in Chicago. And
okay.
Yeah, he's been on our podcast a couple of times now. And he said to us by the second one, he's like, you need to check out Windy City Heat. He told us a story about Perry Carvello, Don Barris. And it's on YouTube. We watched it and I was howling. Especially the bit with you in it.
It's so funny.
You know, I have so many questions.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to answer questions under oath. I swear to tell the truth.
All right. So, I mean, obviously, with the film, you're just getting an edited version. But what was it like dealing with Perry?
Yeah. Well, I got introduced to Perry actually via the Buzzkill TV show where Tony Barbieri. He was one of the writers on Buzzkill. He plays Mole in Windy City Heat. So we were pranking Perry all the way back then, 1995. That we shot that film in 2003. So that was probably there was already 8 years of sort of like fucking with that kid. And I remember that because I met him in 1995 as I worked at Saturday Night Live prior to going to Second City, prior to going to MTV. And so I had like a Saturday Night Live crew jacket. And they claimed that I was Lorne Michaels Jr. I was Lorne Michaels' son coming to Talent Scout at the comedy sort of the stand-up comedians. And I had private auditions in the back room. And Perry was in this diaper and this little goo-goo doll thing that was part of his stand-up act. And I made him like go and do push-ups and sit-ups and all this other stuff and see how long he can stand on one leg, as if that was part of the audition process. And of course, it was the same thing over and over again. It was always like, Perry didn't get it, Mole got it, you know? And so then when they called me to shoot the film, I'm like, isn't he going to remember me as the guy that played Lorne, you know, is he going to remember me as Lorne Michaels Jr.? And they said, no, he won't remember you. And so when I showed up as the limo driver, yeah, man, he didn't remember anything. And it was just, I'll tell you what he said at the end when I finally got him to this premiere of the movie, and they gave him an award and he gave him an acceptance speech. Apparently he was in some crazy accident where he was in a coma for months. And when he came out of the coma, this is when he was young, like 19, the doctor said, look, you're never going to live a normal life. And you have no short-term memory. You're not going to remember anything. You have no short-term memory. And he was crying, saying, well, I showed them, look at this, I'm top of the world and I won an award. And the whole audience was crying. And I didn't know anything about this accident. And neither did any of the people involved in pranking him. I guess they never asked, like, why is he so stupid? But he didn't have a short-term memory. That's why you could just prank him. And then a day later, you could keep, like, adding another prank onto him. So, yeah. So that was the thing that became like an epiphany to me. It was like, oh, he has brain damage. He's not just stupid. He has brain damage. So, but it was fun because when we were shooting that film, I was really driving that limousine and I was really running red lights and I was really drinking. And I just did everything for real, man. And just was freaking everybody out because honestly, I ran a red light in the middle of Hollywood, just barreling with the the limousine, like anything could have happened. I could have actually really gotten in an accident, but I just said, let me go for it. It's a limousine. And I probably would have killed somebody else versus killing us because we were just in this giant thing that was just a tank. So it was fun.
That method acting, isn't it? You got to take it to the next.
That's right. That's right. Always a method actor.
What I love about it as well is that obviously Perry needs to be at that premiere for like 7:30, and I think he's told in advance that they've only shown the film once, and if he's not there, it's not getting released or something like that. And you guys are taking detours, you're stopping off at the market.
Right.
And you can just see Perry. Sorry.
You could just see him just getting more and more anxious and angry and everything and building. And the whole reason to get him there late was there was no movie. They only shot like a couple of days of a movie. So they only wanted me. I was in an earpiece. I knew they were like, okay, now we're ready. Like, go ahead and take him around, make sure he knows he's late so that when he walks in the end of the movie's playing, it would make sense to him. Like, oh, I missed the movie because of this fucking limo driver. And but there was no movie. They just, as soon as I landed with the limo, they started playing that last scene, and we got him in to see the last scene of the movie with the credits and everybody clapping, like this was the greatest movie ever that he never saw. But they really didn't shoot a movie. They shot the things you saw in the movie they shot, but that's not a movie. You know what I mean? So it was kind of funny.
The bit that tickled me the most is when they're doing the sex scene, and then Bob Wait, what's his name? Bob.
Yeah, and he
brings in
double.
He goes, "Can we bring in stunts?" And there's just a fatter version of Perry stepping into the scene. He's like, "Wait, don't I get to do the sex scene?"
yeah. And then he's like, "No more stunt doubles." And then, all right, you got it. And then they're throwing him in a dumpster with shit, and that was all real, man. They really filmed that stuff. And like, I already had the CD when I showed him my band and I auditioned for him in the back of the limo. We knew he would bite on that. Like in my conversation about me being in a band, we knew that he would say, "Oh, I managed bands," because they just know him well enough that what he always brags about or his go-to saying. So that's when we knew we could bait him into saying that he managed bands. And I already had the CD in there and everything ready to go because they were familiar with my band, and they were like, "Oh, it'd be so funny if you sing, with your band," because they thought that the recordings were so funny. So that's where that Satan song in the back comes from. We already had it in the CD. The CD was loaded up and everything. So it's great.
It's so funny. And again, he's just so close to losing his shit. And you're like in his face, like, wow.
Yep.
Oh man. So so Buzzkill. So I was checking that one out, and again, I only did like 7 episodes, but I did a bit of research on it. I found it fascinating how that was like the precursor to what would be Jackass, what would be the Tom Green Show, what would be Punk'd, and it was like, but the version was way more edgier. I was fascinated. I was like, oh my god, imagine trying to do that shit today. It was incredible.
Yeah, I probably can't. I mean, there's some and also Scare Tactics, because we did Scare Tactics after that in a show called Totally Busted, which is a really funny show if you can find any of those. But it was a good time. It was part of a pilot that I shot. What it was when I was at Second City, I was playing characters, and I would go out in public and play these characters, and I discovered I had these access to hidden cameras that I could rent. So I started renting hidden cameras so that people wouldn't see the cameras that were only like a few feet away. Most of the time people don't pay attention to the cameras anyway, but then I decided to really go with the hidden cameras. And then I started interacting with people with my characters with hidden cameras. So it was kind of like Borat too. There's a lot of Borat stuff way before Ollie G and stuff. And because I was just doing my characters in the streets, and basically I cut that together as kind of a pilot while I was at Second City, and we shopped it around and got it picked up by MTV. We did 2 seasons, 21 episodes, but we ended up getting canceled because we just caused too much problems. There was an infamous one with Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
We were not supposed to be dealing with Whitney Houston, and she came to us. There was nothing we could do. We were like, okay, we won't go near her, but we're not, she comes to us, we're not going to deny it. And we got in a lot of trouble. And that was the final nail in the coffin. But the lineage of the whole thing, though, was where I grew up. I grew up in the same neighborhood as this guy, Bam Margera, who was a little skateboard kid in my neighborhood. He would be, he was, yeah, he was on Jackass, you know, and so he was like sleeping on my floors coming out. And when we had Buzzkill, he was like 14 years old, sleeping on my floor, and he was showing me little videos he's making and stuff. He's like, "Oh, I want to do what you do." And so then, you know, that's kind of how the Jackass thing got born, out of going from Buzzkill.
Did you used to skate?
Yeah, I used to skate with them and stuff like that. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's insane that you were like the origins of Bam Margera and CKY. That's cool. I never knew that.
Yeah. Well, CKY is funny that you mentioned that, because so I produced his. So when Bam was 14, he was on a wheel company. He was sponsored by my friend's wheel company called Wheelie Co. And then we made a video, because he showed me some of these videos he was making. I said, "Oh, well, I'll help you make your skateboard video." And it was called Can't Kill Yourself. And so like that was the first video that I produced and made, and I'm in it. I'm in that video with him. And that became CKY. And then that's how the whole band came out of it and everything. So, and
it blew my mind.
Yeah. And the irony on that is I'm now partners with a woman named Felissa Rose. And we tour everywhere together. And her husband, Darren, he's like the lead guitar player from CKY. From that band, which basically came out of the skateboard video title that we did. So
96 quite bitter beans, that song.
And CKY, his Bam's brother, was in that as well, Jesse, and that band probably would have never even been anything if there wasn't Jackass and then Viva La Bam, because they were on Viva La Bam. But none of that would have happened if Bam wasn't sleeping on my floor, you know, when he was coming out to LA and stuff like that. So it's, or the video that I made. So it's kind of how, like, it's interesting how it's all linear. You know what I mean? There's this woman now that has a husband. She's got 3 kids, because she met her husband because he was a big fan of Sleepaway Camp. And on Viva La Bam, she saw that the Darren from CKY had her picture on his guitar. And so they reached out and they started dating, and then they got married and had kids. So he would have never been on that TV show or never had CKY if it wasn't for my show Buzzkill. So
yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
I want ownership of her kids. I'm just kidding.
So how did you wind up on the radar of the Wayans brothers?
Yeah. Okay. So that goes all the way back to those same films that I was making prior to Buzzkill, these short films that I made. And that original thing, I could go get the VHS tape and show you. It was called Dave Sheridan, Americamillion. And I made a bunch of, you want me to go get it really quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, once I see these VHSs, man, I love old school VHSs. I got some fascination with VHSs for some reason. I don't know why. It's just the way it's made and shit. The tape inside it. It's old school as fuck, man. I love it.
My dad was telling me that when he was in the army in the 80s, because obviously he had VHS and he had Betamax. And it said that the struggle every time you'd find a porno, and it would only work on Betamax. And he's like, fuck, he's got a Betamax. Going around all the different...
Yeah, so basically, if we're going to go talk history, we'll just go all the way back to the beginning here. So this tape right here, this is the original of everything. It's called Dave Sheridan's Americamillion. And
that's still in its seal.
Oh yeah, I still have them all sealed and stuff like that. I probably got a couple cases of these sitting around my house. So eventually I might.
Are they still in print?
So here's the thing.
All right, carry on.
No. So I made these because, see, this was before the internet and all that stuff. This is how I would get my stuff around town. Like, oh yeah, this is who I am. You know what I mean? I'd pass tapes around. Tapes would then get taped and taped and taped. And yeah, and there's credits and stuff on the back, and got some good people in here that I don't know if you know who Amy Sedaris is, and Horatio Sands, Ian Roberts, Mitch Rouse. So got some people that went on to be pretty big, you know, on TV and film and stuff. And Travis and Travis and Frank from the Buzzkill guys were in this, but and you could see like, and I had all these like, those are real like licensed from different states. I would dress up in different characters and stuff, and just so like this one right here, that's in Texas. That was that character from Ghost World when I was shooting.
Oh yeah, Doug.
Yeah, but in this tape, his name's Stewart, and so Doofy on this tape, his name's Chip. So there's two videos of Chip, which is me playing Doofy, working at a gas station, and there's stuff with Stewart. And so with Miramax, the company that put out Scary Movie, which, because you asked about the Wayans, so these same tapes is what got Buzzkill, but these same tapes is what got me in Scary Movie as well, because this guy right here, the Stewart guy, they wanted to make a movie, a Demolition Derby movie. And we were in the process of making that movie. And basically I was going to star as that character, which is Doug from Ghost World, but he's Stewart in the movie. This was before Doug. And they were building the sets. They had everything cast. Ashton Kutcher was in it. A lot of pretty big names were in the movie. And then they were also getting ready to make Scary Movie. And they said, look, you're going to star in this movie. We should put you in another movie first. We're making this other movie. But at the time, that movie was called Scream, If You Know What I Did Last Halloween. It wasn't called Scary Movie. And the Wayans were doing it. And they said, we want you to play the Chip character. We want him to play this character, Doofy. And so I read the script. I said, look, I'll play it if I get to play the killer. And they said, yeah, you can play the killer in the mask. I go, yeah, because there's a lot of, physical humor that I can bring with the killer inside the mask. And I don't want to be represented at the end of the movie. As you know, I take everything off and I'm the killer. So I go, I don't want to be represented as the killer. I'm not actually behind the mask. And so they let me do that. But I did have to go take a meeting with Keenan, and I went in as the Chip character. And he got totally freaked out because he thought they were sending somebody in that was like really messed up in the head and mentally challenged. And it was before cell phones too. So I had a pager, and I remember looking, and I'm in my car driving away from a meeting. I'll call it an audition, but it was like a reading kind of thing. Like I didn't read any lines. I just did everything that Chip would do, and which was mess everything up. And so I looked down, it was New York. I had to go to a payphone. It was $1.50 at the time, to like quarters to call New York. And they said, what did you do? I go, I think it really went really well. And then, no, he's freaked out. He thinks we sent somebody that's really mentally challenged. You got to go back and show him who you are for real. And I said, oh, okay. And I walked in, and then he was laughing, and he said, that was awesome. And we're going to do a table read with the rest of the cast. I want you to show up as Chip, AKA Doofy. I want you to stay in character the whole time. So I did the same thing, and the whole cast was all freaked out and scared. And they said, I don't know if we want to be acting with this guy. And he said, Dave, reveal who you are. And then they were like, oh my God, that's great. That's great. And then everyone said, listen, when we start shooting, you got to do that with the crew. We want you to show up as Chip and just be the Chip the whole day. So like on Scary Movie, the first 2 days, like I was literally in character the whole time. People thought that it really was, they cast some fucking nutball, so it was fun. So
that's awesome. So like how much of it was improvisation, and how much was it because I'm guessing you were working alongside the Wayans anyway, saying like, oh, let's try this, let's try that.
Because the Gale Swallows line, that's got to be the greatest line in movie history, in my opinion.
Well, that's funny too, because so something like that was like the way Keenan works, was he just had me go up to the mic and he said, just say a bunch of stuff. I want to see, because he was shooting Gale at the same time. He's like, I want to see what makes her react. Just keep saying stuff and try to get her, to break. And actually, Gale Swallows was one of the ones that like really made her laugh. So they used that.
There's all these like, even though it is a parody, it's quite a clever parody. And one scene in particular that I really appreciate is I can't remember which. Oh, hang on, we lost you there for a second. Hang on.
Oh, sorry about that. I was just shifting through screens.
That's all right. I'm going to switch. I'm going to maintain continuity and just switch us back. There we go.
Oh, I switched our screens.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I have the power. I was doing yard work, by the way.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm actually on my. I'm propped my phone up on the Mexican yard work hat right there that I was wearing earlier. So I'm trying to get these planter stuff all done, but it is hot here. I don't know what the temperature is, but
looks hot spot.
Yeah,
there's one scene.
I went to college in England. That's why I was asking where you guys were at.
Oh yeah, where'd you study?
I went to the University of Sussex and Brighton Polytechnic in Brighton. There in Brighton.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm familiar with the area.
Brighton Rock. Yeah, it's a party town. It's a party town. We just partied.
Yeah, I mean, you've got RADA, you've got places up in Sidcup. There's a big acting community down there. It's good. But with Scary Movie, like again, Sean and I, we're kind of like, we talk often about how there's always little subtle things in certain movies that make us laugh that not many people would pick up on. And in Scary Movie, it's the scene with, I can't remember which one comes first, but you know how the typical smell my finger, what's that? Yes, right?
Yeah.
What's clever about that is I can't remember if it's a scene before or after, but there's a scene where Gail is hitting on Doofy and she starts licking his finger, and then you get to see it go like that.
Yeah, exactly.
This is clever. The fact that kind of like it comes back around on itself.
Small. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm pointing at the van. I'm like, that band, that's right. That band's like, ow. What the fuck?
Yeah.
and the bit when she tickles Doofy, and there's that
nice part.
It's just like, remind me never to do that again.
Yeah.
Or
I had a ball.
How the killer's on the phone, and you pick it up, and you're like, "Hello," and it's you. You're the killer. That is crazy.
Right. There's no one there. Yeah, because at first I'm in the other room, obviously calling, and then he leaves, and I'm like, I pick up. There's no one there, right? Because it's me.
But the most subtle part about that is your rage and boner. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. It's just, yeah. Funny shit.
It's a classic, man. It's like over 20 years old now, and it's still like, it's still getting there's still now there's memes out there. So I don't think Doofy's ever gonna die. He's kind of like
never.
In the year 2000s, he's like the new Alfred E. Newman of like the 2000s. He kind of represents the stupid culture.
Naughty's nostalgia as well, more than anything. But I'm just obviously the film smashed it when it came to box office and expectations.
Yeah,
like no one expected it to be as big as it was. So I'm curious to know, like, what was it like at the premiere? What was the reaction?
I knew we had a hit. Man, because it just every joke was bam, 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 bam. And the only thing I was at before that was Something About Mary, which I'm not in. But when I went to the screening, the initial opening night of Something About Mary, it was very similar. Like just every joke landed. Everybody was laughing. People were literally falling out of their seats. And it was sold out. You know what I mean? Like people were sitting in the aisles and stuff like that. So that's something else. You don't see a lot of movies that like people are, I'll sit on the stairs. I don't care. I want to see it, so it was cool.
And did it change your life? I mean, you were already famous before Scary Movie, but you must be in the stratosphere after that.
It did change. Yeah, for sure. I was on a lot of people's radars a lot more at that point. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you typecast either, because you're just a very good character actor. You know what I mean? You can just play many characters, which I like a lot.
Yeah.
Especially in Sex Drive. Sex Drive, you just, you're like a country, dude, fucking cowboy hat and beard. You wouldn't even know you were Officer Doofy. Do you know what I mean? You're unrecognizable. It's a different character. That's what I mean.
I almost like, and that's why that my first thing was called A Mirror Chameleon, about blending in with all these different characters I play. Because in that video, it's probably like 13 little short films and so many different characters. And it's good. I love doing it. I love like disappearing into characters. There's a film, there's some good ones out there now that a lot of people don't know about, like Beyond White Space is a good one. There's one called Cold-Blooded Killers, which it's an okay film, but my character is great in it. I think you would know that I'm playing that role. And there's a new one called Massacre Academy. You can check out the trailer for that. That's a pretty demented, creepy role. I've kind of tried to move into a lot of the horror movies, is where sort of I'm being cast, but I'm doing the same thing where I'm trying to just kind of go in Christian Bale style of just delving into a character when I can. But I also, now I'm kind of maturing into also just learning to play. It's kind of funny because there's a movie called Victor Crowley, and it's a great role for me. And I don't want to give the spoiler alert, but if you're into horror movies, it's a comedy horror thing. But I don't have a crazy mustache or anything in that. I look like Dave Sheridan, but you'd be surprised how many people don't even know that I'm in the movie, and they come up and I've had people tell me it's their favorite movie. That's my favorite horror movie of all time, and this and that. And I'm like, oh, I'm in that, right? And they're like, you're in that? You're in the movie? And I literally am. I'm not gonna say I'm the star because it's an ensemble, but I'm in the whole movie. And spoiler alert, I'm in at the end. Let's just put it that way. I'm at the very end of the movie. There's not too many people left alive. It's me and Victor Crowley at the end. You know what I mean? So you have to. You're like, you can't watch the movie without watching me. For the last 10 minutes of the movie. So
that's funny.
But
it's funny you mentioned that, because I remember when I first ever watched Scary Movie, that reveal at the end, that parody on The Usual Suspects, I thought it was a different actor when the mustache comes off and the uniform comes off. I was like,
yeah, because you're a beautiful man. Honestly.
Thank you.
It's all right.
Homo.
No homo, dude. Just I can appreciate another man's beauty,
All right, good. Thank you. Yeah. No, I think that was the thing, is like I just like playing characters, though. And I think it was a good thing for me as an actor, because I'm not saying I'm a bad actor, but early on, it's easier to play heavy characters. When you're putting a lot of stuff on, it's easier to play that role, to hide behind. It's harder. The hardest thing to do is do it that like Tom Cruise does, where most people might go, oh, Tom Cruise is not an actor or whatever. But when you're playing yourself, when you're playing that 1 degree off of who you are as a normal person, but you have to make it so realistic, it's hard to do. It's something that, you got to take time learning the tiny little movements. And everything about me is big. So I'm there now. And that's why I'm playing more roles where I look like myself, or I'm acting like myself. But early on, I think the rudimentary style of my acting, it was sort of handicapped, I guess the word would be, by adding on the hats and the glasses and the mustaches and the voices or whatever, But that's something other people can't do. So that's a good thing too. The negative side, I think, to the whole thing was, I go to do these conventions and people look on my table and they look at, like you said, you brought up Windy City Heat or Sex Drive. Is a good example. That I have a couple of Sex Drive photos and they're like, oh, Sex Drive. And, wait, I didn't know that was you. Wait, that was you and that was you. Oh, and this was you. Whoa. Like, once you see all the pictures out on the table, they're like, I didn't know you were all in all these movies. So that's one of the reasons I'm out there doing the convention circuit, is because most people know me for one or two things that they know of, but they don't realize how many other movies I've been in. So it's kind of nice to get out there, and maybe that'll start to proliferate and change. Like,
just recently I watched the Sex Drive reunion on your YouTube. And,
yeah.
You had the Cudlets on. And
I love him.
I totally forgot he was in Sex Drive as well, because he always has mustaches. When I seen him in Lost, he had mustache. He always plays cops. Walking Dead, Abraham, big mustache. Yeah. And when he's clean shaven, like, I was like, no way, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's like you're in
so funny.
You're in the Devil's Rejects, and it wasn't until like the third time I watched it that I was like, oh shit, yeah, it's fucking Dave Sheridan.
Oh yeah.
It's almost a coincidence, because the episode of Buzzkill that I was watching had a Rob Zombie song in it, and I'm thinking, and then 10 years later, you're in a Rob Zombie film.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Yeah. Rob, that's that's an interesting one being cast in a Rob Zombie movie, because he really does like to work with, you know, especially in that series, and like say the Devil's Reject series and Three from Hell, is he likes to play that thing of like having iconic horror actors and then having like really good comedians, you know? And so luckily I was blessed to be invited to be in, you know, inside a Rob Zombie universe of characters and stuff, because he's got a great fan base when it comes to horror. So once I was in that movie, I was almost like, with that and Scary Movie, with those two things, and now Victor Crowley and other films coming out, where it's like, I'm slowly now, you know, people come up and go like, oh, you're an iconic horror actor. You know what I mean? Like, you're one of the, like, because it's an older crowd. If you know anything about the horror community, it's like Sid Haig has just passed away, but, you know, you've got like, you know, Bill Moseley or Kane Hodder, Bruce Campbell, Robert Englund. But a lot of these guys they're all over 65 at this point, you know? And so I'm actually, even at 50, I'm actually 52, but I just said 50. But I'm like one of the younger dudes on the circuit. You know, when I look around, everybody signing, they're still like 15, 17 years older than me. And so there was this weird gap that there hasn't been a lot of like iconic, there hasn't been that, you know what I'm saying? Like there isn't like, so I'm almost like the next generation of horror actors. That's why I saw that opening, because the comedy thing was hard to get it was hard to stay in, at least on a giant level, you know what I mean? Like, because there's only a studio level when it comes to comedy, but they make horror movies for like $100,000, $200,000, $500, you know what I'm saying? So it's almost, and I always look at it like country music to rock music. Like, if you want to be a rock star or a pop star, you have to hit that at age 18 or 23 or 25. You know what I mean? If you don't make it when you're in your early 20s as a rock and roller, you're not going to make it. But a country music star can make it at 50, at 45. All of a sudden they can be, you know, Willie Nelson. So for me to shift into horror movies, it's readily more accepted to be a leading man at my age. You know,
you're a big horror movie fan in the first place.
I was not, and I'm not, and I don't shy away from that with the fans. I always look. Do I like horror movies? Yeah, but I was not an aficionado. I wasn't studied in it. Nothing compared to what I grew up, you know, studying comedies and following people's careers and stuff like that. It just didn't click with me like that. But now that I make them and I'm writing them and I want to direct, I am a fan, and I'm studying it, and I'm definitely a fan of the fans, because they are very loyal group. Like, there is no group of fan base like the horror community. And that's the other thing, is comedy fans, they don't have conventions. They don't get together as a group of people. You know, there is a cult sort of like club that comes along with being a horror fan.
It's very incestuous with comedy. I noticed that with like the comedians we have on, they're all friends. That's like, they have their different cliques, different. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Oh, and that was the other thing, is like, once I was in with the Wayans, it was almost like I never really quite got invited to be in like Adam Sandler's group. You know, even though I'm friends with Adam, and I did do the only project I ever did with Adam was called Gay Robot. And that's funny too. That's a really good one, man. It's are you guys familiar with that one?
I've never heard of it, I don't think.
No, but I understand that he's produced a lot of projects. I mean, he produced a film called Grandma's Boy. We're big fans of that film.
Yeah. So Grandma's Boy, again, and there's a guy named Nick Swartzen in that film, Grandma's Boy. And he stars in Gay Robot. It's basically a TV show. They only made one episode, and then they started making a cartoon out of it or whatever. But it's the robot. They did a robot from like Benchwarmers or whatever that.
I remember that film. Yeah.
There was a robot. They turned that robot into Gay Robot. And Doug, I'm drawing blank on his last name. No, not Doug Benson, but yeah, he might be involved in it somewhere in there, I think. No, the guy inside the robot is a guy named Doug Williams, I think. but he's big in the horror community. He played like in The Shape of Water. He's like the monster in The Shape of Water. He's in a lot of like Universal movies. I think he's in the Groot outfit or something like that. Like Doug just gets in a lot of prosthetic outfits. He's famous in the horror community, but what's funny is he's also in The Gay Robot. That's the first time I met him. He was shoved in a little robot outfit. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, what's up? Oh, your name's Doug. How you doing? Yeah, but once you get, because that's the thing is once you get inside that can open, it's like once they place him inside that robot thing, it's like you're not coming out for the rest of the day. It's like, you need a water? All we got is paper straws. Sorry, buddy. You know, so.
I know. I heard a story about Anthony Daniels, who played, I think I get his name right. The guy who played C-3PO. His first day on set, or first few days on set in Tunisia. And he's just stuck in the suit. They all go up.
It couldn't be that bad. He played him for like 60 years afterwards.
Yeah, but he said like those first few days he just broke down crying.
Yeah, no, I can imagine in A New Hope. Yeah, they're in the desert the whole film, aren't they? Pretty much. So
hot, so hot. Yeah,
110 degrees Fahrenheit. Jesus Christ.
Right.
It's like Simon Pegg in The Force Awakens. He had to get in that big prosthetic fat suit, didn't he? To play.
Who's that?
Simon Pegg in The Force Awakens. He was in the big Mission prosthetic
Impossible.
Suit.
Star Trek, Mission Impossible.
Shaun of the Dead. Play Shaun.
It's more of a
I know who he is. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I didn't know he was in a big fat suit though.
Oh yeah. It wasn't really that.
I forget the guy's character's name. He's in there for like 10 seconds. But
yeah, I got all the time in the world when it comes to prosthetics. I'm a sucker for prosthetics. I mean, one of my favorite horror movies. It's more body horror. Is the 1986 Fly.
Yeah.
With Jeff Goldblum, and it's like, you know, that was. I mean, I think it won an award. I think it won an Oscar for the makeup and all that, and quite rightly. I'm like, fucking fascinating stuff like that.
The tiny fly. It was a tiny fly. No, I'm just kidding. They won an award for like small makeup. The guy was like, oh, that little fly. Look at it, Jeff. His name's Jeff.
Oh man.
There's a movie. Speaking of that, because if you like that kind of thing, there's a movie called The Special that I'm in. It's available, and that's kind of like a body horror transformation. And I don't want to give it completely away, but it's basically about a guy that goes to a whorehouse, and there's a dick in a box thing that he has sex with something inside the box, but it's got a lock on it, and he doesn't know what it is, and he gets addicted to it. Then he starts to get a rash, and it starts to take over his body, and he gets demented, but he starts to transform himself into a monster, and it's pretty good. I like the film. That's another little small independent horror movie that most of them I do are really crap. I'm not gonna smoke up anybody's ass. I don't know what I'm getting into when I make them. I'm just exploring as an actor, and I'm not the director. I don't have the final say in the execution of a lot of these horror movies, but I try to control what I control, which is my character and my performance. And I think I do a good job in all the films. That movie though, that's one that's like 1 out of every 10 of those low budget horror movies I do, and one turns out to be something I'm like, hey, that's pretty good. And The Special is one of those. So
that's it.
If you get a chance to check that out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's never wasted. It's never wasted though, is it? Because one thing leads to another, no matter how the project turns out. You know, one door leads to another.
Yeah.
If we're talking body,
work with it.
Another body horror that isn't that well known is called, I think it's called The Human Spider versus the World. Dan Aykroyd's in it. It was a directed, I think it was a TV movie, and it's kind of like The Fly meets Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So this guy ends up body horror turning into a spider, shooting
webs
out of his abdomen and all that. It's fucking brilliant.
Oh, wow. I gotta check that one out.
So so it's good that, you know, with your experiences with Scary Movie, you wound up and collaborating on a regular basis with the Wayne brothers, because I understand that they kind of got done over with their own project. You know, after this, they fast tracked the second movie because of how popular the first one was.
Right.
And then they find out secondhand that they're not in the third one.
Well, they didn't. Not. I don't know if that's the case. They weren't jiving with the script on the third one. They wanted to have more control of the script, because it started turning to be more like just a bunch of series of pop jokes and stuff like that. And they wanted it to be a little bit more concise of a script. But at the same time, then there was a money issue. Like they weren't getting rewarded for the amount of work they were doing. So, so they left. It wasn't their franchise. They honestly, the corporations are always going to own it, and the corporations owned it, and they stepped away, and then they waited for a bit, and they were able to capitalize. And I was involved in Haunted House 1 and Haunted House 2 with them, and that would be what they consider their sort of like comeback into the Scary Movie and their next versions of the Scary Movie.
Yeah, and you were in that parody as well, weren't you? I haven't seen it, but you played Mysterio, was it? In
50 Shades of Black.
That was it. I need to check that film out, but yeah, no, I've heard that was a good one as well.
And that one's okay. There's some good jokes in it. The thing I don't like about that one is it's tough to parody a movie that wasn't that good in the first place. I mean, 50 Shades of Grey is not a good movie, you know? And so when you're starting with the basis of something that's like, it's kind of shitty of a film, then it's hard to say, but we're going to make it funny when not enough people liked. It wasn't like you had fans of that film and the people that were fans of that film were not going to be fans of a spoof. They were the cat women that like eat their Subway sandwich in the car during lunch, you know what I mean? And listen to books on tape. So they weren't somebody that's going to run out and see a Marlon Wayans spoof and think it's funny. So I think they found out that when you do a parody, you should make the parody for the fans that already like the genre of what's being parodied. And if that's not going to jive with, meaning there was never a chance that the 50 Shades of Grey fans were going to like 50 Shades of Black. It was, they were the people that watch 50 Shades of Grey and love it they don't have a sense of humor. They don't want to watch a spoof. So you don't have the right marketplace. So then if you're marketing it to some irreverent person, well, they're not interested in 50 Shades of Grey. And so you're like, I don't want to go see a spoof of 50 Shades of Black when I didn't see 50 Shades of Grey. So I feel like I'm not going to get the jokes. And I think they also made a mistake that they tried to follow the story of 50 Shades of Grey, which was a crappy story. So you're trying to you're putting your comedy on the hinges of a plot that doesn't even, move the needle. So
well, I'll tell you a funny story. So I've never watched any of the 50 Shades. Couldn't care for it.
That's what I'm saying. Of course, so you're not the audience for that, but you're an audience that might like spoof, but therefore you have no interest in really watching 50 Shades of Black. When you watch it, you're like, I don't know why I'm watching this story. So.
Even the people who were in 50 Shades of Grey, they didn't care for it either. And I tell you, so we have a talk show in the UK called the Graham Norton Show.
Yep, I know.
Familiar with it. Yeah. And I think this is by the time the third one had come out, right? And these, these films, they wrap maybe a year before it actually gets released, especially with a big movie like that. And the guy who plays, what's the guy's name? I don't know, Mr. Grey, whatever it is. Yeah, he's quite a well-respected actor. He's good at what he does. And he sat on the couch with the rest of the cast and crew with Graham Norton. And Graham Norton's like, we got a little snippet for you from 50 Shades Freed, whatever the third one's called. And you can just see the look in the man's face. He just looks defeated. Like he doesn't even want to watch the trailer, the little snippet to his own movie. Because it's like, he knew exactly what they were getting themselves into. It's like, the story of 50 Shades, right? It was just some fan fiction based on Twilight. Yeah. And for some reason, it just became a phenomenon. I remember middle-aged women were buying this book. Like, you wouldn't believe it. Fucking sold more than Harry Potter. Yeah. What the fuck's that about?
I don't know. Well, sometimes there's a hype of like, especially a book. The only way to know what's in that book is to read it. So if it can get enough hype and spin, and Oprah can talk about it or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all about the hype train, isn't it? Like when something works, and then it's like with Scary Movie. That after that, you had I can't remember the brothers that they weren't even writers of it, were they? They just had a screen credit to their name, and they went on to make parodies every year.
And they were pretty bad. The Aaron Seltzer or something like that.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
and then
they got a writing credit because they did have their version of a Scary Movie, and so did the Wayans, and so they did pay somebody to conglomerate them together, to mesh them together. but the Wayans being the Wayans really didn't take too much of Seltzer and Freeberg's script. But I don't know. I've never actually, because I don't really care. I know what I did in the movie and I know what I made up and I know what made me funny in the movie. So, but I never went and said, I'm going to get Seltzer and Freeberg's version of the script first and break down whose version was what. But I know there was 2 versions. Miramax bought them both. The Wayans were now hired to take the other version, incorporate any jokes they saw fit and saw funny and mesh them together, and they'll share writing credit. And but then once we got going, there was probably like 5 or 6 writers full time every night. They were repunching up stuff, meeting afterwards to go over jokes, things that happened during the day. Oh, that was funny. Let's add that in. Let's do a callback to that kind of stuff. So Keenan definitely believes in writing, and constantly trying to add as many jokes in as possible, whether that's improvising on set or writing the night before, or figuring out an edit and coming back and doing stuff with some voiceovers, like ADR. Yeah. So it never stops. Like that stuff with the what's up, where I'm like, what's up? That thing. We went and shot that after the movie, like 6 months later, because we shot the movie around Halloween in the year 1999. And then the Super Bowl 2000, Budweiser came out with that commercial and it became a big hit. And so then they brought me back like in February and said, hey, we want to add this in to the movie so that when the movie comes out, there's some new jokes that are like, only a few months old, so that they're more like up to date. So that was one of the things they added in that stuck. And to this day, that thing is still, now that's more famous. The Killer doing the was up is more famous than the Budweiser commercial. A lot of people come up to my table and have me sign the picture of me, the was up. And I don't think they even know that there was a Budweiser commercial anymore. You know what I mean? That they think it's from Scary Movie.
Yeah, the parodies outlive the actual reference. What makes it, I think what makes it so funny is the different faces,
Yeah.
The mask,
exactly. The mask, yeah.
And there's this one scene I've just remembered that fucking kills me in Scary Movie. It's when Cindy pushes the piano down the stairs and the fucking run down the stairs.
Yeah. Thank you. Because that's an interesting, I'm glad you brought that one up because, see, a lot of people didn't know I was inside the costume the whole time. And I always have to tell people that the 2 places that I was not in the costume, and that was one of them, was I'm not on that staircase running, but I did show the stunt guy how I would do the run. So what happened was I showed up and they said, oh, you're not going to be able to do this. This stunt is too dangerous because if you trip, even though the piano was on like a cable that controlled its speed, once it got going, there was no stopping it. And so they said, if you trip on like your own robe or your robe gets caught by the piano, you could get really hurt. And the other thing is there was an old lady. So like, I was like, I think I threw a bike or something and then I threw an old lady and the old lady then the old lady's getting up and she gets hit by the piano. And that was a real stunt lady. And she was like 77 years old. And they said, we don't want you to hurt her. For her safety, we're going to have her work with a stunt double so that they've already worked on the stunt separately, overnight or the day before. They've practiced. So the guy just said, how would you run? So I went up and did the run. And then he said, I got it. And then he went and imitated me. So I was happy with that they said, go show us how you would do it. And then we'll just have him mimic it. The other place that I'm not in the costume, the Killer outfit, is when I'm kicked through the window at the end. She kicks me through the window in the final fight scene, and then I'm not in the yard. It's kind of like a tip to Michael Myers in the first Halloween, where I'm not there. That was like what we call a one and done special, where because they were breaking out that giant piece of glass with like a piece of explosives, they could not have. They didn't want me to do it. And honestly, I wasn't that interested in doing that because I didn't want to get hurt. And there was nothing really comedic about getting kicked through the window. There was no funny versus the stuff that was important for me to be a part of was hiding. Like, do you know where I am?
Yeah, I was just about to mention
and then, going under the rug and going to the thing. And then the part where I hurt my back doing the Matrix thing, and I'm like, ow, hold on, and then I had to hurt my back. So things like that, like that was more important to me. Of like, I want to make sure that I'm conveying comedy and all that stuff. So
there's one scene I want to ask about. I can't remember her name. She's the girl that's also in American Pie. When you cut her head off.
Yep.
Because it's a great scene where she's playing the trophy.
Shannon Elizabeth.
That's the one. Thank you.
That's right.
So the scene where you're just holding up her severed head, like how was that done? So what?
Okay, it's really super simple, and I just had to make sure I held her away from my body. She's just wearing a green smock. She's just wearing like an all green screen smock. So I hold her up away from my body, and then they'll take her away, and I'll do the same thing and hold up nothing. And basically, it's just a mat. All they have to do is the green screen. What's green, they just get rid of it, and the lockers and all that stuff that's back there now you can just see. So it's a pretty simple. Once I hold it up in a location and hold it there, then you're just taking a mat and just literally cutting out that and double it, because it's a locked off shot. So we both can step away and there's a plate and they could just basically blend in the background. So it's pretty simple to do.
Fair enough.
And they put blood, around where she's wearing the thing. Then they'll put blood and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Stuff like that fascinates me. I've always wanted to know. So there you go. I can die tomorrow now and I'm complete.
They cut a lot out of that scene though, because it was very violent. And they said, it was too violent. But I start gutting her and I'm stabbing her. Yeah. She goes, "Oh, is that all you had? But I'm pulling out like all sorts of stuff. And it's like, there's car keys at her stomach and it was from like Jaws. It was supposed to be a spoof of Jaws. It was like a rubber boot and a license plate and just condoms. Because at first I'm pulling her guts out and stuff, but then it gets worse and worse. But then it's like condoms, it's a bunch of condoms. Like, oh shit, like she's just, and they just said,
sorry.
They just said it was a little too violent. It was too violent. We cut it out.
I've seen a deleted scene with Doofy and he picks up Gail. I think it's Gail. And and you just leave on the little go-kart. And you do like the Nino.
I'm I'm reversing out and then I do
yeah. And I'm like, why'd they cut that? That's genius.
Oh, yeah. So was there any?
I don't know.
I was just going to ask. So was there any discussion about you being in the follow-up movie, or was it done after that?
Nope. No. I don't know what happened.
He can't reappear, can he?
No, I understand. I was just curious.
I think they, they just wanted to put more actors in. It was interesting that they brought other people back. I think I complained to them, and then I got them to put me in more movies after that because I'm like, what's going on, man? Like, come on, get me in there. But I think they started figuring out I could play more than one character, and like, oh wait, let's put Dave in these other movies, but he'll just be, another. Then they started challenging me. What's he going to play? What kind of character is he going to play?
You played Rocco, didn't you, in Little Man?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the killer guy. Yeah, or the bad guy. Yeah. And
that's an alright film. White Chicks is where it's at. I mean, I watched that film a couple of years ago. I was dating some girl like for a couple of weeks, and we got high and just watched White Chicks. And that bit when they're shitting themselves, lactose intolerant, when they shit that killed me.
I need to go. Yeah, that's on my list to watch with my kids. White Chicks. I want to watch that. And I know they're going to be making another one someday soon. They've been trying to get that off the ground. I think there's a problem with the rights or something, but that's a funny film. That's one of the ones I'm not in and I wish I was in, because that was, I don't regret not being in Scary Movie 2 or any of the other scary movies, but I was a little more upset that I wasn't in White Chicks,
Yeah, so, for sure.
And I have a role in the next one. I know what the script is and I know what my role will be. I just don't know if they're ever going to make it. So
yeah.
Oh, it will get made, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Too many people like the first one. It's one of those things, isn't it? Everything gets something when it's that popular.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, look how many Terminators there are, for fuck's sake. Too many.
The Terminator's done now. I didn't even see the last one.
They killed it. Right. They killed it.
Oh no. So what other projects you got going on that you don't have to go specifics. I know it's,
I know there's an article today in Bloody Disgusting about a movie I did called Stream. And they had it's like my picture getting just destroyed. My eyes poked out, my nose is getting yanked off. So that kind of sucks because it's like, well, I guess you know what happened to me in the movie. I don't think I live. But there's that one's one that's going to be coming out. That's really good. Like I said, Massacre Academy. I just got done shooting a film called what was it? Just shot it. I'm drawing blank, man. I'm getting old. Yeah. Like a week ago. It's so funny. Oh, it's called Z Dead End, and it's like zombies. It's like the Sharknado of zombies. You know what I mean? It's like zombies falling from the sky and stuff. It's gonna be pretty funny. I got a pretty good role in that.
I like zombies.
So,
I'll check that out
for
sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely try and make our way over to Manchester in October for sure.
That'd be cool.
It's not
How
too
far is it?
Well, the thing with England is it's not a big country. It's like the size of North Dakota, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like we're talking maybe
So
500-600 miles.
You guys are in the center right now or something, you said?
Sean is. I'm on the south coast. So I'm in a place called Weymouth.
Okay.
That's nice enough, good weather sometimes, except for winter.
Yeah.
Sucks. But yeah, no, we're definitely...
there's two bands I like. One's called Bandicoot, and another one called Catholic Action, and they're both out there right now. And I know a lot of those like smaller bands don't get to come to America, so I'm hoping to go see them. And there's another, I think, an Irish band called the Idols. I want to go see them.
Oh yeah. Idols are sick. They're good.
Yeah, that's like my favorite band. I listen to them every day, so I want to hopefully go see them play someday. But I don't think they come out to America too much. So
they're growing in popularity though, so I wouldn't be surprised if they will.
Yeah, but then there was the pandemic and stuff. That I think I have to check their tour dates. But the pandemic is it's not them. It's more like they're not really doing shows. You know what I mean? It's like
you have to work around everything.
Groups of people. Yeah, exactly.
So, but we've had all the festivals going on at the minute, which is crazy. I've seen like TV highlights and the crowds are mental, and like I'm confused. I'm like, how? So is that not
which ones?
Reading was on last week, I think. Download Reading Festival, Reading in Leeds.
Oh, okay. I know they had like over here. They had like what was it, a Lollapalooza or something like that. So
yeah, I'm a fan of that. They have some good bands.
Yeah,
Download is back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Download. That's a lot of rock bands and stuff.
Wow.
They're the only ones I give a shit about. But
everything's running at full capacity now. So fingers crossed, we're all good for this winter. And like I said, we'll come check you out in October. That'll be awesome.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I'm gonna stay too in Manchester for like maybe 3 days, 3 extra days extended. But I don't want to stay there. I'm gonna keep my hotel there or whatever. But what else could I do? What else could I do when I'm there? Like,
let's
just should I go down to London or something or what? Like,
no, I mean London's kind of a shithole. I kind of avoid London.
Yeah.
What would you do if you were in the Manchester area? Just stay there?
Yeah, for sure. It's a good enough city. That or Liverpool. Liverpool's not too far down the road, but honestly, Manchester's good enough.
As a Manchester United fan, I'd say stay away from Liverpool. So definitely stay in Manchester. Yeah, there's there's a lot of good stuff in Manchester. I've never really been. So, but there's a lot of good places to fucking go. So
yeah. All right.
I'd say stay and we fucking party.
I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, I have a lot of people come out. That's if you guys can get the word out that I'll be out there. It's called
plug away.
For the Love of Horror. I think it's like the 16th and 17th of October. Cool. That weekend. Yeah. It should be good.
We'll be there. I don't care. We'll be there. I'll be like, sorry, work, can't make it.
It'll be the first time I'm coming back since I went to school there. So, it's so funny. I just shot a film. So when I was at Brighton, I made a bunch of little like short films and stuff like that. And there was these kids. His name's Mike. I know his name is Mike now. I didn't even know his name. I was 18 years old. You got to understand, I'm 18. I'm 52 now. So we're talking 30. I'm terrible at math, but that's like 32 years ago. So I get a call from him and from this guy. He goes, yeah. Or I get a call from another guy that I already know in LA, and he goes, we're making this movie. There's a role for like one day. Would you come up and help us? The producer and the director is a guy named Mike. He said that you shot a movie with him in Brighton when you went to school when you were 18. I go, what? And see, I wasn't even I wasn't famous or anything. I was just a kid. You know what I mean? I was just a student, you know? And for him to remember my name, you see, because I didn't make it anything for another 6-7 years. So I think Buzzkill, I was like 24 years old. So that was like 6 years. And so it's kind of funny that I shot something when I was 18 and this guy somehow even remembered my name, you know, like I guess once I made it with like Scary Movie, then he was like, oh, maybe he recognized me, but I don't know how you'd recognize from when I was 18. So it's just interesting because then he's like, now it came full circle and I'm working with him. You know, I shot something in LA with him. So
it's funny how
it's the same year that I'm going back to England in the same year.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you know, I'm a big believer in like, you know, whether it be laws of attraction or how everything sort of links up together. Like you put it out there in the universe and it just comes back at you. It's funny how life works out like that. You know, it's a big world, but at the same time, it's a small world, you know?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a small world now that I'm working. I went full circle and acted with a guy that we made a film when we were students in college, you know? So
that's good. So we
32 years later. Yeah, go ahead.
We do this little segment where we ask our guests like what their favorite movie is. I don't want to put any pressure on you, but what is your favorite movie or TV show?
Oh my God! favorite movie win right now?
Of all time.
Of all time.
Ever. Yeah. All time. All TV show. All porno.
Very interesting. Favorite movie of all time. Like that'd probably be like, what have I seen over and over and over again?
I can tell you mine, if that helps.
No, I don't want to listen.
Okay, well, fuck me, right?
Yes. I would probably say it's either between Jaws or maybe like one of the Inspector Clouseau, like one of the Pink Panther movies. Those probably, yeah.
Oh, with what's his name?
Peter Sellers.
That's the one. Yeah.
The Peter Sellers ones. Yeah. I like that series a lot. Good.
One scene that kills me is when he does like that vault down the staircase and stumbles down. That just kills me every time.
Right.
Steve Martin took a crack at it, and it was funny, but you could just big shoes to fill with Peter Sellers, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No. It was so funny when he would fight his butler, the Kato guy. You know what I'm saying? And then I think that scene of him going down the stairs is part of that, where they would just literally just trash his place and trash like the neighbor's place, and like, you know what I mean, going through walls and stuff for no reason, like for his training. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then when he thought he was dead, then he came back and Kato turned it into a whorehouse. You know what I mean? His place was now like, oh yeah, my boss is dead. Oh, so yeah, it was funny stuff. But the Jaws probably is like a blockbuster, I guess, that I would watch over and over again. And
did you watch that?
Because it's got a little
in the cinema.
Oh yeah. I was there. I went to set when I was a kid because they shot it near where I grew up. Not where I grew up at the time, but where I was living at the time. My dad was like a marine biologist, and it was called Woods Hole in this Martha Vineyard in Massachusetts where he worked. And he said, oh, they're shooting some shark thing down there. You want to come and look at it? And I was in preschool at the time. I was like going in from preschool to kindergarten. And so I think I was like 5 years old. And I went down and saw the shark, like in the water where they were getting ready to shoot. So it was pretty cool. And then I saw the movie.
Do you know what fascinates me about that film is that the shark that they were going to use broke. So they had to rely on sort of suspension, like little snippets of the shark. And it wasn't until the very end and it just turned out to be a blessing in disguise, big time, because it was so effective.
And also the actual rubbery shark, you know, the scenes where they show it the most, it really is kind of cheesy. You know, it's like, it's not as, they wanted more of the shark. They wanted to get more of it to work and it didn't. So having it be used from the camera perspective a lot of times and stuff like that, the POV of the camera, and just catching glimpses of it. It really was a blessing. It really helped him out. So
less is more than that, isn't it?
I forget they had a name for the shark. I'm not saying it wasn't Henry, but Gary. I don't know. The shark. Bert.
Gary.
Bert? I think it was Bert.
See the scene where he's throwing the fish into the ocean and he turns around.
Chumming.
That still fucking makes me shit my pants. Just his face where he's like, that's fucking quality.
What was the reaction like in the cinema watching that film?
Well, that now you're asking me a lot, because I was like 5-6 years old.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it was. People were scared.
Yeah, for sure. The first film I ever saw in the cinema was fucking Matilda in '96. I was only 4 at the time. I was petrified of Miss Trunchbull.
But the funny thing about there's just 2 moments of that I remember in being in the movie theater, especially since she was kind of naked, was that opening scene where the chick gets her clothes off and goes swimming and then gets killed. That kill is like really like the first, like, holy crap, that was like a kill. And then when he goes down at night and he's trying to get the shark tooth out of the boat, and then there's a body inside the thing, and it's kind of they call that a jump scare nowadays, like where Richard Dreyfuss, it's close up and the decomposed face kind of like rolls over, and then he's blowing air, and just there's something so creepy about being in the ocean at night anyway.
I don't go.
You know what I mean?
I live right next to the ocean. I don't go anywhere near it. I mean, we don't really
get. It was definitely that is the scariest thing I ever do, or I don't like doing, is getting in the ocean at night, going swimming at night. But I do it every now and then. People like to. I have friends that like to go spear fishing, and they go out at night and go down in there, and it's just dark and things come swimming by, and it's scary, man. Yeah.
There's this YouTube series called VFX Artists React, and there's one episode I caught where because they react to both good and bad VFX, and the one that killed me was when they did Jaws 3D, and there's just that scene of the shark just going towards the glass, but it's not even moving. It's just a still image of a fucking shark going up to the glass, and it was meant to be a 3D effect, and it did not pay off too well.
Oh, the Jaws 3D. Got it. Yeah.
And then the 4th film. What was the 4th film about? Where the shark somehow makes its way to the Bahamas. So Michael Caine, he just did it for a paycheck.
They start walking on the sand with knives. Just turned into a slasher.
If I was,
I'm joking.
In a dirty Atlantic water, would I want to go down to the Bahamas, man? Come on, man. It's better in the Bahamas. I think that shark was a smart. That's when you know you're not going to beat that shark. He's smart. Like, let me go down to the Bahamas. I'm on vacation.
Like Deep Blue Sea. Is it Deep Blue Sea? Where the sharks can swim backwards.
Backwards. Oh, boy.
Yeah, they start learning how to swim backwards and shit. Talking about getting scarred as a kid.
I did see Jaws 2, but I never saw Jaws 3 and 4. So
Jaws 2 is acceptable, though. I think it's acceptable. I can't really remember it that well. But I remember being like 7 watching Scream for the first time. And I couldn't walk up the stairs without sprinting, thinking like Ghostface was going to murder me.
Oh, cool.
I don't know what. I used to. Yeah. My mum used to rent horror movies. I used to watch them as a kid, thinking I'm cool, but really, I just scarred myself.
That's it. I'm the youngest in my family. I was always exposed to fucking slasher movies at a young age, and I couldn't sleep for 3 nights, man. Fucked me up.
Yeah. See, even though the Blair Witch is really shit nowadays, it's not that scary. When I was a kid and watched it, it fucked me up for days. I could.
Hold on. What? Yeah. My wife's telling me I got to get off soon.
Yeah, no worries. We can wrap up in a minute, man. We don't want to keep you.
Yeah. No, the thing is this. I never really get. That's the thing about those lumbering, the Jasons and the Michael Myers and stuff. They don't really scare me too much because I was always fast. I'm a fast runner, and I'd be like, man, I'm out of there. Goodbye. But I like the John Carpenter's, like The Thing. I don't know if you ever saw The Thing, like where you don't know who the killer is, and you're isolated, and there's no way no one's getting out of there anyway alive. So do you
still know who the killer is? I don't.
In what? The Thing?
Yeah, you don't really know at the end, do you? It's left to imagine.
Yeah, well, it's a monster or whatever. It's getting inside things, but I don't know. I don't even know if he knows if he gets it or not. You know,
it's funny as well, like, because what scares you changes as you get older as well. Like these days, as an adult, I'm more scared by existential horrors or body horrors, things that can personally affect you. There's this TV series on Netflix called Love, Death, and Robots. And it's like an anthology series. But I think David Fincher produced it. It's really good. I really recommend it. It's an anthology series. It's all animations, but it's different styles of animations because it's different people doing each short. And there's this one episode called Beyond the Aquila Rift. And it's about 15, 17 minutes long. Some of the best animation you'll ever see. It's beautiful, but the story is frightening. And I don't want to say anything to spoil it, but if you ever get a chance, Love, Death, and Robots, Beyond the Aquila Rift.
All right, I'll have to check that one out.
Fuck it. It scared the shit out of me, even as a grown man.
I'll check that out. Yeah.
Anyway. All right, Dave. Well, we'll wrap up then. We'll let you get going. Don't want to aggravate your wife. So.
Yeah, she's annoying, man.
or fiance, sorry, I don't know.
I thought she was putting a bit on. What are you looking at? There's no one there. So yeah, man. Well, thank you guys, and let me. I'd love to send me a link when you get this up and whatever. And
I'll send you a message on Instagram.
If anybody's watching this, if you come to the Manchester show and you say you saw me on there, please come tell me what's the name of the show.
Save Room Podcast. So are you familiar with Resident Evil, the game?
Nah.
All right. They have what's called the Save Room.
I thought you were like Save Room for Dessert or something like that. Like it was I was expecting this to be like a cooking show. What the fuck?
We're actually followed by a podcast called the Spaghetti Podcast, and that's all they talk about.
Nah, you're joking.
I'm going to give a shout out. I want to give a second shout out to the Spaghetti Podcast.
Yeah.
That's meatballs. All right. Well,
and Dave, you're welcome anytime, by the way.
Have me back on. Maybe you guys if you guys can come out to the show too, and we can meet. That'd be great.
100%,
right?
man.
Just to warn you though, there is like rumors of a second, like a 2-week lockdown in October, but I think it's towards the end, and hopefully it doesn't happen. Please, for the love of God, don't happen.
Oh man.
But
I hope not.
But just in case, just giving you the heads up.
Why would there be rumors about that's like a month away? Why don't they just lock it down now then?
There's no need to. It's just what it is. It's the mainstream media. They like to kind of inject fear in people. So it's like, if shit gets bad in October, we'll have a fire break lockdown, which is like 2 weeks during the vacation break for schools.
I think they just got to let it, man. You know what? If you got the vaccine, then you should be, I mean, I know people are getting sick still. These different variants are not, the vaccine is not really being effective against. But the reality is, if you're under 70 years old, do your best to go out and get it as fast as possible. Get it over with, man.
I had COVID.
I don't know.
No vaccines, nothing. COVID. Got the immunities now. I've got the immunities. I'm good.
Yeah. I just got over it.
Yeah.
That's why I was trying to think of that movie, because I was like, what was that movie? Because my brain's a little foggy because I'm literally 2 weeks of now, you know what I mean? It's been 2 weeks since my first symptoms, and it took me a while, man.
How was it for you? You don't mind me asking.
Well, it was nothing for the first day and a half. It was like, oh, I got it, and then I felt like I got over it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was so I never stopped anything I was doing, and I decided to go get blood. I'm like, I'm gonna go get blood then, you know what I mean? Because I was already gonna get blood, and I was like, well, I got COVID, so now I have antibodies. Let me go get blood, and that way someone else will have antibodies. And losing a pint of blood like 2-3 days into the COVID thing, and that's not really true. I think my symptoms came down Tuesday night. I got like a fever and cold sweats, and then I flew back home Wednesday. So then Wednesday night, I was kind of a little sick, but I didn't get home until like late. And then I just laid out. You see, I got like a nice sunshine here and stuff like that. And I just laid out in the sun and just laid myself out for 2 days, got sun and dried myself out. And I felt great. Didn't do anything. I just laid out and just you have to understand too, I was coming off like a 10-day road trip where I just partied. So I was dehydrated and stuff. So I was just taking a ton of vitamins and just drinking a lot of water and stuff. And I felt better. So then on Monday, I went and gave blood. So you're really talking like 5 days in. But I felt like I was 100% by Sunday. And then Monday I gave blood. Then Tuesday I woke up sore and I had a fever again. I was like, I think I just like fucked myself up. Like I just ruined my own immune system by weakening it. I shocked it by giving blood. And so that was last week. So we're 1 week. Where were we at now? Thursday of this week. So it's been like last week of Monday. So then it was a whole nother week and a half. And I also traveled. I did another convention in between there in Miami. So I was fighting it off the whole time there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, cool.
So I probably gave it to at least 100 people. Yeah. I'm trying to spread it.
Spreading the fucking shit.
That immunity, man.
I'm trying to get my thing is I'm licking doorknobs. I'm trying to get as many people. Let's get it over with. Because I don't want another lockdown. If we're going to do another lockdown, let's do it right now. But like, the reality is if you got the vaccine, then it's probably going to protect you. If you didn't get it, then you're somebody said, well, then I'm willing to take a chance. Yeah. If you didn't get it, if you don't want the vaccine, then you're saying I'm willing to take a chance like me, then you want it. Then just get it and let's get it over with and see where the chips fall. I know some people get it hard, but most of those people are old or heavy or whatever it is. If you're old or you're obese, you should get the vaccine. You'd be stupid not to.
Exactly. Common sense.
That's who it's for. If you think you're healthy enough to take it, it's just a cold. It's just a really bad cold. I still have it in my chest right now. I'll try to show. That was it. That was it, man. That was the COVID. Yeah. That's the COVID. I just got it out. Who wants it? Oh, my dog's licking up the COVID now, man.
Oh man.
No, so and that's the thing. It was like it was harder for me, for sure. At first it was good, and then I got bad. But I never got like laid out where I couldn't do anything. I just had a cough, you know what I mean? But it was achy. I had some body aches, but I thought that was just because I was coughing so much that I was just tensing my, you know what I mean? I was like, so I took aspirin. I think the big thing is not to go to the hospital. If I could give any kind of advice out there, if you think it's bad, it ain't bad. Don't go to a hospital until someone else has to make that phone call and you're in a coma. Then you should be in the hospital. But if you go there going like, I can't breathe, they're gonna put shit in you that's gonna make it worse, and you're gonna be in a bed. You ain't getting out of that hospital. Like that's when they want you there, because that's when they start to go, hey, there's money. So this, that, let's take some blood, let's take some tests, do this. That's just a moneymaker for them. So the one of the drugs they put you on, it floods your lungs with water. Remdesivir or whatever it is. So you don't want to go to the hospital and get treated. You're better off just staying home and taking care of it. Eating ice cream.
Ice cream. Wow.
Yeah, no, she had it too. You had the COVID, right?
Yeah, I look fabulous.
Yeah, there you go. She looks great.
All right,
and we're going to leave it on that.
All right, cool. No worries.
What's the ice cream? What's the ice cream, honey?
Yeah, so.
What? Oh, it's good. It looks good. Yeah, we love ice cream.
Yeah, thanks again, Dave. Really appreciate it, man. Been an absolute pleasure.
Cool. I hope to see you guys in Manchester, man.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll send you a DK Pike as my Instagram, so I'll send you a message when we got clips in that. I'll tag you in it.
Thank you, guys.